I can't drive. I've never had a lesson. The reason being, I've crashed everything I've ever tried to drive. I've crashed a quad bike, a jet ski, which is quite impressive because I was on the sea. Very little to bump into. I crashed a camel. I crashed a camel. I'll tell you the story about how I crashed a camel, right? I was on holiday in Egypt, and I was a bit bored in the hotel, so I booked to go on a snorkeling trip, right? And this guy, he comes to pick me up in a 4x4, and he drives me for about 4 hours, right? And eventually, he stops the car, and he says, right, get out. And I get out, and I have a look around, and I can't help but notice I'm in the middle of the desert. I thought to myself, I'm not an expert snorkeler. I think someone has made a mistake. I said, what's the matter? I said, what's the matter? You know, I booked to go snorkeling. He said, it's fine, it's fine. What happens now is you get on a camel, then you ride to the sea, and then you go snorkeling. I was like, I don't want to get on a camel. I want to go snorkeling. That's why I booked to go on a snorkeling trip. And now I find myself in the midst of this North African version of the Krypton Factor. You're throwing in extra stages I hadn't planned for, you know. I don't know if you've ever been on a camel. I wouldn't recommend it. The best way I can describe a camel to you, a camel is a lot like a Premiership footballer. They kick and they spit. And you wouldn't want one to fuck your sister. I'm on the camel, and the line of camels is called a caravan, and there's a guy in charge of the camels, and he says to me, don't worry about this camel you're on, it's fully trained, right? No problems whatsoever. However, all these other camels milling round the sand dunes, they're wild. They're dangerous. Stay away from the wild camels. I was on my camel thinking, well, it smells of poo and it kind of does what it wants to. I'd hardly call it debonair, you know. Anyway, two of these wild camels, they really were wild, right? They started having sex with each other outside. Actually, I guess outdoor sex isn't that wild for a camel, is it? If they were like properly wild, they'd be like fucking in a bungalow or something. Anyway, they're really going for it. And my camel, following my Premiership football analogy, he decides he'd like to get involved without being asked. He broke away from the caravan and started galloping towards these two shagging camels. I don't know if you've ever been on the back of a camel racing towards two other camels in the midst of aggressive sexual congress and was suddenly struck by the realization I'm about to be involved in a foursome. Which, don't get me wrong, has always been a dream of mine. Except on this occasion I can't help but notice none of the other participants are human. I'm getting closer and closer to being involved in some sort of horrific dromedary clusterfuck. And the wrangler, he's not helping, he's in the distance shouting, tug! Tug! I'm not sure whether he's talking about the reins or whether I should start myself off, you know. They're notoriously disinterested in foreplay, the old camel. This is why I decided to crash the camel. I threw my arms around the camel's neck and I jumped off the camel, hoping that my momentum would tip over the camel. I don't know about you guys, I just figured I'd much rather be crushed to death by a falling camel than fucked to death by 3 camels. Thank you very much. I've been Lloyd Langford.